The lady in black. She's got a thing for tradition, a hankering for history, and she sure likes a good challenge. Well, when Throwback Weekend comes to town, she'll get exactly what she wants and play extra hard to get.
We're in the wall.
Shall we dance? NASCAR Throwback Weekend at Darlington Raceway. Get your tickets now at darlingtonraceway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from Bryant-Denny Stadium. We're at the Advantage Center where we've been recording some interviews with Alabama student athletes, including an interview coming up on today's show with Crimson Tide offensive lineman Tyler Booker. But right now we'll start to go through our headlines. Our headlines always presented by RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. Let's see what's coming up on the show today. First of all, we'll start with an interview recorded here at the Advantage Center as we'll be visiting with Crimson Tide offensive lineman Tyler Booker about his Alabama career, maybe some thoughts on J.C. Latham as we get set for the NFL Draft tonight, and much, much more. Then we'll visit with the winner of Sunday's Geico 500, Tyler Reddick. A great victory for him, and he got to talk about his experience at Talladega. We love seeing that for Tyler Reddick of NASCAR. And then we'll take a look back to Monday night. We had a football-only edition of Hey Coach presented by Alpha Insurance at Baumhauer's Victory Grill here in Tuscaloosa. We'll replay our conversation with Kalen DeBoer, the head coach of the Crimson Tide football team. Other headlines, we start with baseball. Last weekend went 1-2 against Texas A&M, swept in a Friday doubleheader, but then really bounced back well on Saturday against the number one ranked team in the country. A solid win to close out the series. Great pitching at the end by Alton Davis II. Then on Tuesday, the Crimson Tide were able to also pick up a win against Samford. 14-5 was the final score as that wrapped up what is a 9-game homestand for Alabama. Coming up next, a lot of time on the road, including this weekend, the Crimson Tide taking on Ole Miss starting tonight in Oxford. Crimson Tide, after the win over number one Texas A&M, now ranked 18th in the country. Then the Crimson Tide softball team, they were on the road this past weekend against Arkansas, went 1-2 against the Razorbacks. Now this weekend, they're at home for what will be the final home series of the year as Alabama will host third-ranked Tennessee at Rhodes Stadium starting tomorrow night. Congratulations to Jocelyn Brisky. More great performances by her. She was named the SEC Co-Freshman of the Week. Crimson Tide currently still in the top 25 at number 17. On Monday, Alabama Athletics held the Crimson Choice Awards for our student athletes. For a full rundown of all the award winners, just head to RolledTide.com. You can take a look at who took home the hardware from Monday night. The men's golf team is underway at the SEC Championships as they're playing in Sea Island, Georgia. Best of luck to Jay Sewell and the Crimson Tide there, and also women's golf. Congratulations on them being selected to an NCAA regional. Doris Lemangole, once again, the SEC Runner of the Week, and how about the National Athlete of the Week after her great performances this past week. And also in women's basketball, some news from the transfer portal as Diana Collins transfers from Ohio State to Alabama. That's a look at our headlines, again, presented by RJ Young. And now we'll start the show today here inside the Advantage Center at Bryant-Denny Stadium, a one-on-one conversation with Tyler Booker, who's been one of the outspoken leaders of this Crimson Tide football team ever since his sophomore season. He details spring football 2024 for Alabama. Roll Tide and welcome to the Advantage Center here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. This is Roger Hoover. Now please be joined by Alabama offensive lineman Tyler Booker for Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. And Tyler, Roll Tide, spring football in the books. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It was fun to be back at Bryant-Denny Stadium for the Golden Flake A-Day game. Just what'd you like about your performance that day as spring practice came to a close?
With my performance, I was just glad I was able to tighten up some of the things that were lingering from the season, just making sure I'm really honing in and focusing on my technique. So I see a progression of my game. So my freshman year, I was just trying to figure things out. My sophomore year, I was trying to dominate. Now going into the junior year, I'm trying to dominate with technique and just really be the best version of myself so I can help lead this team to a national championship.
That's certainly the goal for the Crimson Tide. Where were you working on the offensive line throughout spring?
I worked at left guard, and I went out to left tackle every now and then just to say that I've done it, just because the best ability is availability. So you never know what happens in the game of football. If I need to go out there and play left tackle, now we can say that I have the reps banked in. If we get in the pickle, I'll be ready.
There you go. What are the biggest differences between left guard and left tackle?
Left guard, you have support from both sides of you. So you're secure. You don't feel that much space. You're not in that much open space. But when you're at left tackle, you're pretty much on an island. So you have this, your whole left side is free, and then you're taught not to, but sometimes you drift out. so that inside is left open as well. So you just have to be very cognizant of where you are in comparison to your teammates and just making sure that you have really great technique, because the guys that we're facing, they're essentially wide receivers. They're guys that couldn't catch the ball, wide receivers that couldn't catch the ball, because the guys are getting smaller and faster as the years go by. So just making sure that our technique is on point, making sure we get to the spot. But tackle is pretty challenging, but it's a challenge that I'll be willing to take on if need be.
That's certainly good to see. Do you love having that kind of versatility? I mean, that's what college is for, right? Getting to know all these different spots, because who knows where you could be asked to play one day down the road, not only for Alabama, but maybe in the NFL.
No, exactly. And in the NFL, they only travel with 7 offensive linemen. So if you can only play one position, you better be pretty darn good at that one position. But if you're not, you better be able to play multiple positions. Like, there's a lot of guys in the NFL who can play all 5 positions: left guard, right tackle, and center. So snapping the ball, that's something I've also been working on throughout the spring, just to add more value for myself.
Okay, take us through the mentality of trying to snap the ball and play the center position, because there's so much going on, and in so many ways, you are the leader of the entire offense when you have the ball in your hand.
Definitely. It's tougher than people think, because like you said, you have to make sure that the entire offense is on point. Like, I have to make the center has to make the mic calls. You have to make the right point. I have to make sure that people on both sides of me know what they're doing, because if I'm at center, I make this the point, somebody says something wrong and somebody else is over here says something right, I have to make sure everything is okay. All that before I even snap the ball and do what I have to do during the play. So it's pretty challenging, but that's the challenge I had fun learning.
How do you get a rhythm with a quarterback, getting to learn their cadence and make sure you guys are on the same page?
With this offense, there's not a lot of rhythm with the cadence, just because we don't want defenses to be able to tee off, because it's obvious now we're on the clock. People seen the spring game. So as the quarterback does this, they could time it up as soon as his hands are out there. So we're really taught not to time it up or have a rhythm with the cadence, just so the defense can't tee off on us.
That's certainly good to see for the Crimson Tide. So again, that's spring practice. That's certainly in the books now. What's coming up for you this summer to get ready for the fall?
This summer to get ready for the fall, I'm really going to focus on tightening up my body, losing a little bit of weight, coming in the fall camp a lot leaner, just so I can be the best version of myself for the team, and then also the next level. There's not a lot of 350-pound offensive linemen, so just cutting down, looking forward to the future, but at the same time doing what I need to do in order to have that future that I want.
Of course, fans can kind of look at some of the footage that's put out by Alabama football social media accounts, see all the work you guys are doing in the weight room. How about all the work you're doing when you're eating your meals and getting the right nutrition? How much do nutrition and then all the work you do in the weight room go hand in hand?
Nutrition and the weight room work hand in hand. Like you just said, like if I'm working all these hours in the weight room and then I go eat somewhere that I'm not supposed to for all 3 meals of the day, it pretty much cancels each other out. So like if anything, it puts me at a deficit of work. So you just have to be very cognizant of what you're putting into your body, because your body is your business, and you don't want to put bad parts in it.
But is that part of the learning curve once you got to college? Because I imagine you heard some of that stuff in high school and IMG Academy, but I imagine it was a little bit different, trying to make sure you had all the nutritional goals and the kind of the way to log everything once you got here.
I think the only thing that was different once I got here was probably just like the app that we were using to log our meals. But at IMG, my nutritionist, shout out to Sean, he gave me a great foundation and a great base of nutrition, like what to eat, when to eat it, and then also like having balance, because if you just eat amazing all the time, you're going to reach that point to where you just pig out on something. So just having those scheduled meals when you can cut loose a little bit, but just knowing that you're going to have to make up for it throughout the week as well.
There you go. So again, that's all part of what you're doing right now for the Crimson Tide. Do want to go back and take a look at your football journey and how you got here to Tuscaloosa. First of all, where are you from? I
was born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut. Yes, sir.
Very good. I've been there before. I had a summer school I went to years ago at Yale. What'd you like growing up in that town?
I really just like the community and being an athlete from there. We don't have a lot of athletes that come out of New Haven, so people would just naturally gravitate towards me because of how far they have seen me gone thus far, and they've been behind me the whole way. And I'm looking forward to going back to New Haven. May 18th, I'm holding my 3rd youth camp there, so looking forward to getting back and giving back to the community that has given so much to me.
Do you feel like New Haven's more the New York metro area or truly part of New England?
Probably the New York metro area. That's the same type of culture and vibe that we have. I have a question for you, actually.
Yes.
So when you were at summer school in New Haven, did you get any of the pizza?
I got a lot of the pizza. I can't really remember many of the spots right now. I kind of hit up that main strip that Yale has. We kind of went there, and we were high school kids at the time, so we went up and down that main strip. But I love it's the really good thin pizza, right?
Yep, the thin crust. Chuck's has the best pizza in town. Some of the best pizza in town. The Standard does a good job, but Chuck's does it really well just because they have a brick oven.
There you go. And that's where like the Frisbee was invented because of the pizza pans, right? I heard that was one of the stories they told us at Yale was that, all these like excess pizza pans, people start throwing them around and they started playing, Frisbee outside of that maybe.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a story for me. That's news to me.
That's certainly good. With that, did you grow up a New York sports fan?
No, actually, I grew up a Pittsburgh Steelers fan because my uncle was on the practice squad for them right around when I was born. So we just carried over that momentum.
There you go. What's his name?
Ulish Booker.
Very good.
Yeah.
Where'd he play in college?
He went to Michigan State. And he was actually recruited by Coach Saban as well. And he played under Coach Saban for a year. And then that next year, I believe Coach Saban went to LSU.
I have an idea Coach Saban remembered that then when he started talking to you. Is that right?
He did. We had to jog his memory a lot, but just having that relationship and having that respect for Coach Saban growing up and just always knowing what kind of caliber of coach he was, that was always ingrained into me. So choosing him as my coach for college was a no-brainer pretty much.
That's really good. For you, you had the unique opportunity to go to the IMG Academy. A lot of athletes will just stay in their hometown, stay in their different high schools. So why was it important for you to take your game to the next level and leave town and go down to Florida to the IMG Academy?
It was important for me to go to IMG Academy just because I want to be the best of the best. And Connecticut football isn't where it needs to be considered an elite level. And then I didn't even spend my freshman year of high school in Connecticut. I actually went to Bergen Catholic in New Jersey. New Jersey has elite football, but it's not on the biggest stage. IMG was on the biggest stage every single week. I think I played on ESPN probably 5 or 6 times in high school, just having all of the media attention. And that's not the only reason why I went, but just having that kind of pressure on me, it just forced me to perform better. And then just being around so many elite individuals, regardless of sport. So there's really no room for you to have that big head as the hometown hero and be like, oh, yeah, I have all these offers. Well, the kid next to you is going to be a millionaire in about 2 years because he plays basketball. He can be one and done. So just being around all those elite individuals, it was the best kind of peer pressure you can have.
You already mentioned like the nutrition was kind of set up at a college level already. Just how many other things were really set up with college, like focus and intensity?
Pretty much everything. So another funny story, the weight room, a lot of the technology that we have in the weight room here at Alabama, I already had at IMG. I've been using it for 3.5 years already before I even got here. That's because Coach Ballou was at IMG for about 2 or 3 years, and he implemented that whole system and technology. So I've been on the same weight program for about 6 years now, and just having that advantage of knowing how to train like a pro, how to eat like a pro, how to work like a pro at such a young age. Once I got here, it was pretty much a seamless transition.
Who are some of your teammates from football that are doing really well in college or maybe even now on to the NFL?
Some of my teammates that are doing really well. Well, JC and I, we were on the same offensive line. He's performing really well. So my junior year, I think that was the best team that we had when I was at IMG. JJ was the quarterback. JJ McCarthy was the quarterback. JC Latham was the left tackle. I was the right tackle. The left guard was Najee Harris. He's a starter for Florida right now. The right guard was Ethan Lane. And he switched in with Lou Bob. Both of those guys are at Division I schools. Ja'Cory Brooks was one of the wide receivers on that team. The defensive side of the ball was pretty good too. Xavier Sori, he's at Georgia. He was on that team. And then my senior year, Jahai Campbell was on that team. Keon Sabb was on that team. So just being around a lot of dudes. He had a lot of dudes on that team. So just being around greatness, it just made you want to be great.
How about from any other sports that our fans would recognize?
Oh, I was in class with Jarris Walker. He plays for the Pacers now, I believe. Jet Howard, the son of Jawan Howard, he plays for the Magic. I remember having lunch with Armando Bacot a few times. So just guys like that, high level athletes like that.
Well, you certainly got to perform at a high level. When did Alabama start to notice you in the recruiting process?
A little late, actually. And I had kind of wrote Alabama off. I was like, nah, they don't want me. I'm not going to go there. Like, why would I go there? They're on to me so late. I think it was right when I was setting up my official visits. So I had in mind I was going to go to a certain school. I want to name names. But I was like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to schedule it here. And my dad was like, no, like, what are you going to do if Alabama calls? I was like, man, I'm not worried about Alabama. Like, Alabama's not worried about me. And as I'm texting one of the coaches of said school, I get a text from Coach Gillespie who's like, call me. I want to set up this official visit. So I'm like, all right, I guess. So I made that the last weekend. I made that my last official visit because I did all my official visits in 1 month. And just being able to compare Alabama to everybody else and see why we are the premier college football program in the nation, just I think that was the best way to go about it. Being able to see Alabama, seeing the peak, and then seeing everything else beforehand, like that made my decision a whole lot easier.
What stood out to you when you first got on campus? Was it the stadium, the Mount Moore Athletic Facility? I mean, what really impressed you the most?
What impressed me the most was actually JC. Just seeing how much he was my host. JC had matured so much from IMG to how he was at Alabama, and then just interacting with him, see how much he had grown, and then going through the, like you said, nutrition, going through the academics, the training room, the weight room. Everybody was committed to excellence. Excellence was a word that I heard a lot. And then the thing that pretty much made me commit when I knew I was going to Alabama, my mom, I love her to death, but she doesn't know much about football. when I got offered by the University of Georgia, she was like, "What's Georgia?" I was like, "Mom, I'll call you back. I'll call you back." She was killing the mood a little bit, but she said this to me. She said, "IMG, you're at the pinnacle of football right now. IMG, why would you go anywhere else? You have to go to the pinnacle of football at the college level as well." So hearing that from her, and she doesn't know much about football, that was just in my opinion, a sign from God telling me that this was the place for me to be.
So J.C. Latham got to host you. Robert Gillespie, you had a lot of contact with him. How about your first contact with Coach Saban?
My first contact with Coach Saban was great. He just told me the opportunity that I had here. He didn't make any promises like, "Oh, you're going to play here." He said, "If you come in here and you work, you're going to get everything that you want out of this place." And that's all I needed. All I needed was the opportunity, knowing that if I do what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to see the field. And that's what happened my freshman year.
Did you get to sit in his office and have that conversation?
I did. Yes.
So you're sitting at that table with what? All the championship rings on the coffee table facing you, right? And
yeah.
you have to look through those rings basically to look to him.
Yeah, it was great marketing on their part. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that had to be cool. I mean, just again, to pick his brain for a little bit, and then you get to not only make the decision to come to play for Alabama. So again, everybody's nice, really trying to work hard to get you here to Alabama. And I imagine you wanted to be coached hard, but was that your experience as a freshman? Now, how did it go once you make that transition from getting to know these guys and recruiting to now they are coaching you? They're trying to get you ready to play your best for the Tide.
So when I got here, the offensive line coach that recruited me, he actually took a job elsewhere. So Coach Wolf, he and I had a relationship through recruiting, but he was somewhere where I know I didn't want to go. So when he got here, I was very excited because I already knew who he was as a person, as a coach, and I was very excited to play for him. So that relationship just picked up where it left off, and I'm a worker, man. So I took all the hard coaching that he gave me. I was making sure I was meeting with him in his office every day. Whenever we didn't have practice, just to make sure I was putting myself in a position to continue to get better and continue to grow. And it was pretty tough at first, my first spring, just because being in the trenches, the biggest difference is strength level. So once I got that first off season in the gym, that really improved my performance in fall camp and led me to getting some playing time my freshman year.
How'd you lean on JC those first few days here?
I lean on him by pretty much just walking around. Everything that he did, I did. You know, JC is a great mentor. That's a big brother of mine. We actually got to JC was at IMG, I think 2 months before I was. So we were at IMG that whole time together. We built that relationship, and I consider JC a brother now. So I'm very excited for him and him being drafted early in the first round this Thursday.
Yeah, it is draft time. So if an NFL GM or a coach were to call you up and be like, okay, why should we make J.C. Latham part of our organization, what would you say?
And J.C. is one of the hardest workers I know, and J.C. is going to do everything in his power to be the greatest, and he won't accept average from anybody, and especially not himself. He's going to do what he has to do with his body, his mind, mentally, everything in his power to go out and be the greatest, and he's going to push people around him. And JC has a white belt mentality. So JC being older than me, I was able to teach him some things, and he was able to teach me even more. So JC just having that white belt mentality, just being willing to learn. Why wouldn't you pick him first?
We certainly are wishing the best for J.C. Latham. For you as a freshman, how do you feel like you earned some playing time?
I earned some playing time just because I feel like I had an undeniable fall camp. Like I just performed at the level of the older guys above me, and I feel like I forced the coach's hands. Like you have to play me. Like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing on and off the field to earn that playing time, and I did that. And then the coaches trusted me in a couple crucial moments in some big games, and just knowing that they had that confidence in me, it helped me build more confidence within myself. And then just having that playing time my freshman year, going into my sophomore year, I was out there and I felt like a vet, you know?
What were the moments that really stand out to you about your freshman year? I imagine, week one, you're in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Everything's so new. Week two, you're on the road at Texas. Maybe the hottest game Alabama's played in the same era.
Oh, yeah. So that was when I got my first snap of college football in Texas. I think, it was Emil Ekiyor. His helmet came off, so I had to run in and go in for a play. And I don't even think Coach Wolf called me in the game. I just went in. I just went in. So I just went in. I had that one play, and then that was that first shot of adrenaline. Though I was just like, oh my gosh, like I love this, and I want to feel this all the time. So that next week we played we played ULM, and going into that game, people around the building were saying, "Great job, keep it up." So I felt like there was a change coming, like something big was going to happen for me this week. So I knew I was going to play a lot that game because ULM is I don't ever want to disrespect one of my opponents, but that's a game that we expect to be up early, and then they told the younger guys to be ready to play. So I think we get to the third drive in the game, and Coach Wolf looks at me. He said, "Are you ready to go?" I said, "Of course I'm ready to go." And then he put me in the game, and it never stopped from there. And I found my way into the rotation and started playing a lot more. And I felt like I earned that. Like I forced the coach's hand, and there's no substitute for experience. And I really like to thank Emil Ekiyor, Javion Cohen, Tyler Steen, Seth, JC, Darian, all those guys that really nurtured me into being ready for that role and being ready for that position. And especially Javion and Emil, just because they never felt threatened by me. They always wanted to see me succeed. Like those are two of my big brothers for life, just because they took care of me. Like, let's be real about it. Like, I was taking away some of their play time. I was taking away some of their playing time, and for them to support me and not have any ill will towards me, that meant the world to me. Like I never felt any type of bad blood between us, and we're still close friends to this day. I'm close friends with both of those guys to this day.
Mentioned the Texas game when you're on the road as a freshman. Obviously, anytime Alabama goes anywhere, it's that school's biggest home game of the season. Yeah. And we really saw that your freshman year, 2022, at Tennessee, at LSU, two really loud environments. I know games Alabama ultimately didn't win, but how'd you adjust to dealing with all the crowd noise that happens? Because, again, it's when the opponent or when the home team is on defense, that's when it's at its loudest, when Alabama has the football. So how did you adjust to the noise, specifically with those two games, Tennessee and LSU?
I'm really relying on our hand signals. So back then we got our plays through signals. So whatever the play was, just being really cognizant of that, making sure I really knew the signals beforehand. And then you just come up with stuff on the fly. So if me and Seth had a double team, he would go like this. It was that loud. And then even watching film back on the Tennessee game, that's the loudest environment that I've ever been in. And I've been to a Travis Scott concert, and I think Neyland Stadium was a little bit louder than that. So just being in that environment, I had a great time. That's some of the most fun I've ever had playing football. Like that's why I came to Alabama. Not obviously not to lose, but just to play in those big games and those big environments like that. That's what you come to Alabama for.
Absolutely. And that game was a shootout. Hendon Hooker doing his thing for Tennessee. But Bryce Young, a week removed from injury, didn't get to play at all. The Texas A&M game, injured against Arkansas. Still not at 100%, but he played one of the best games of his career, I felt like, in that game.
Yeah, people really don't bring that game up a lot. And Bryce is amazing for that, because not being able to have a lot of reps throughout the week in practice just because he was resting his shoulder, and to come out and throw for 500 yards and I think 4 touchdowns is nothing short of amazing. So just having that kind of guy, that selfless leader that's going to go out and put his body on the line for the team, that just taught me what a leader is supposed to do for his pack.
Yeah, what'd you like about his leadership, and obviously Will Anderson Jr. that year as well?
So Bryce and Will were like kind of yin and yang. Will was the loud, rah-rah guy, and Bryce is the kind of guy that'll pull you aside and talk to you if need be. So just having those two leaders, that they really taught me how to lead, and I try to embody what both of them did as leaders. So sometimes I will get loud and be the rah-rah guy, but there are times where be a little quieter, and if there's a guy that I need to talk to, encourage, reach out to, challenge, I can do that quietly, just like Bryce did. And I'm very appreciative to both of those guys for really teaching me how to lead at the college level.
Even though you were just a sophomore last year, I think you go to anybody that followed Crimson Tide football closely, fans of the program, they'd say you were one of the leaders of this football team this past year. When did you feel that responsibility to speak up maybe a little bit more with some of your teammates?
Probably as soon as Bryce and Will left, because I knew there was going to be a hole left by them just because of the way that carried for this team, and just knowing that I was going to have to step into that leadership role, and I was comfortable doing so. It was really easy for me to do just because I love all these guys on the team, and I want to see everybody be great. And we're only as good as our weakest link, so just lifting everybody up from the walk-ons to the starters, and that's something I've always been willing to do. I feel like I've always been a leader in any program that I've been a part of. So yeah, that was a much welcome challenge. I had a lot of fun with this team last year, and I feel like the difference between that 2022 team and this past year's team is that everybody shared the burden of leadership, carried the load of leadership, and that made it easier. So it didn't feel like it was just two guys carrying the whole team leadership wise, and it wasn't that the 2022 year.
And I imagine that's why Coach Saban has said things like this 2023 team is one of the most proud teams that he's ever coached. He's proudest of that team because you took steps from week 1 to week 12, obviously in the SEC championship game against Georgia. You got so much better as the year along. How did it feel for you guys in that locker room trying to make improvement week to week?
It felt great because we always knew the potential that we had, like just going at it in practice. Like we would always have those talks in the locker room. We're like, man, if we could really put a game together, we're going to be dangerous. And the more games that we did play together, the more dangerous we became. And this is something that people don't realize. We had I think we only had maybe 2 returning starters to the offense from the year before. So that, of course, there's going to be some bumps in the road. And I don't know how many returning starters we had on defense, but 2 completely different coordinators, 2 completely different schemes just going in there. Of course, there's going to be some growing pains, but the more we grew together, the better we became. So I knew it was going to be rough at first, but I just know we had to stay persistent and consistent to listening to what the coaches tell us to do, them trusting us trusting them, and going out there and performing to the best of our ability.
How important was that Ole Miss game when Jalen Milroe really took ownership of the quarterback spot?
It was super important because Jalen, he's always been a leader, even that 22 year when Bryce was starting. Like Jalen has a way about him. Like you know when a quarterback walks into a room, they have this aura, they have this certain swag about them. Whether you're loud or quiet, everybody has that certain swag. Every quarterback has that certain swag to him, and Jalen has always had that. So for him to really take over, that's when everybody on the team know, like, okay, as an offensive line, okay, if we block for this guy, he's gonna get this done. And the defense, like, okay, if we get the ball back in his hands, they're gonna score a lot. So just having that trust between everybody, he really earned everybody's trust that game, and he had it beforehand, but he put the country on notice. Like he was like, yeah, I'm here.
That was so good to see. And then again, his confidence grew. He kept playing well as the season goes along. You get to Auburn, you get to the Iron Bowl, your first Iron Bowl on the road at Auburn. How tough was it, first of all, to play in that environment?
It was really that game was weird, because we started off so fast and it didn't feel as close. The game didn't feel as close as it was until probably around the 4th quarter, because I felt like I never felt like we were in horrible shape, because we were always like 1 or 2 plays away from getting the job done as far as going down and scoring. And whenever we needed to, we did. So I didn't realize how close the game was until I looked up at the scoreboard, and I was like, oh, shoot, we got to score pretty soon. But just that crowd was rocking. That's another reason why you come to Alabama, just to beat Auburn at Auburn, so.
Yeah, the muff punt, Alabama's able to get the football back. Kind of walk me through that final drive and how Jalen led you guys down the field, and obviously had some adversity, backed up with 4th and 31. What was your role on that play?
Just making sure everybody had faith. You just have to believe it. If you don't believe what you're doing, it's not going to happen. If you don't really truly have faith in what you're doing, you're not going to get it done. So I was just reiterating to everyone, just have faith and trust in the process. Like we haven't come this far just to come this far. So just trust in the game plan, trust in the play call, and just go out and perform.
And your offensive line did its job on that play. Jalen had a lot of time to really rear back and throw that pass to Isaiah.
Definitely. I don't ever want to criticize the coach, but them only bringing 2 was very puzzling.
Did that surprise you when you got to the line? I mean, how did you kind of go through your pre-snap routine only seeing 2?
It was very surprising, but I was like, because our coach had prepared us for this game, they got home on twice. They either got home or had a pressure. It might have been 3 times, but yeah, that was their go-to game, and we had prepared for that. But it was something that they were still getting home on. So I was expecting that to only see 2 people. I was like, okay, like let me just make sure Kalen's all right. Let me make sure Seth's all right, and just help those 2 guys. But it was pretty easy for me, and I had a front row seat to see one of the best Iron Bowl players of all time.
Yeah, so you were getting to help those guys out. So were you able to see the pass get thrown? Were you able to see a clear view of Isaiah making the catch in the corner?
It wasn't clear. I just saw the ball go over my head, and I just ran down to cover the ball because you never know what can happen. And I believe it was Malik Benson. He threw his hands up like we scored. I was like, did we score? and the crowd it went crazy. The crowd went silent. It was quiet. Our fan section went crazy, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think we just scored. But yeah, I'll never forget that play.
So that's such an emotional high. Again, it's the Iron Bowl. It's a huge rivalry. Everyone feels so good about how that game ended. But now you only have a few days to get ready for the huge opportunity, the SEC championship against Georgia. And Alabama played a great football game that night against a team that hadn't lost in 2 years. What did you guys do in the week leading up to kind of move past the Auburn game, which, again, 24-hour rule, we know all those things. But that had to be a difficult adjustment to kind of snap and clear, get ready for Georgia. But you guys did very well.
Yeah, I don't think it was difficult snapping and getting ready on Georgia, and I feel like that's why we performed like we did against Auburn. I feel like some people on the team were looking too far ahead to playing Georgia, and we kind of lost focus on the task at hand, and that taught us a great lesson. So, yeah, we were a little bit too worried on Georgia, but it ended up paying off in us having a great game against them and just imposing our will on them in the run game.
You really proud of your play that night because of the run game, and also you're going up against some of the best in the SEC with how good Georgia's been on the defensive line.
Definitely. Georgia has one of the best defensive lines in the country, so to go out and have a great game and rush for how many yards we did rush for, I think it was a good amount, and pretty much run the ball out. Like that's always you can always hang your hat on that as an offensive lineman when you can run the ball out at the end of the game. Like they're pretty much putting the ball in the offensive line's hands and saying like, hey, lead us to victory.
And we saw that great celebration in Atlanta. Were you confident once that game was over and that night and then before the selection show Alabama would get into the college football playoff?
Of course, and they had no choice but to put us in just because we beat the number 1 team. We beat the reigning champ. So why, like, who else would get in over us? And just the constant progression that we were on, just getting better week by week, I felt like it was a no-brainer. I don't know why it was such a conversation through the college football world. Like you can't have that conversation without being biased. Like there was some bias. If you say that we shouldn't have been in there, like you probably went to the school that should have been in there, you think should have been in there, or something of that sort. But I feel like we definitely earned the right to be there.
You certainly did, as Alabama got to go to the Rose Bowl to take on Michigan, your old teammate J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback of the Wolverines. Just what stands out to you from that ball game, especially with the way it ended?
That was I think it was a great game by both teams. They just made more plays than we did, and that's what it comes down to. They executed 1 or 2 more plays than we did, and when you play a team like that has been together for so long and has so much chemistry, you can't leave room for mistakes, and they definitely took advantage of our mistakes. So yeah, and then when you look at that defense, that was a great defense. I feel like that's one of the best defenses I've played since I've been in college. Everybody on that defense that was a starter was either a junior or older. So just having that continuity throughout the team and having that having those bonds throughout the defense, that made them very strong. And just seeing that and really wanting to implement that here and just show guys that like, hey, if you stick it out, if you stay here, like we have a chance to be great and we can use them as an example. You can always learn. I used to come to the Nick Saban football camps when I was younger, and Coach Saban always told us, he actually told the same stories every single year. It was pretty funny, but he told us never waste a failure. So just looking back at that game and seeing what they did, what we didn't do, and just making sure that drives us, and we use that as motivation for this coming season.
Was that when Coach Saban met with you guys after the game? What was his message? Did you ever have a feeling that could be the last game he coaches?
Not before he spoke to us. I felt like he was giving us a speech to get ready for this upcoming off season, get ready to get back at it, and really make another run at this national championship, because we were right there. We were a few plays away from being where we wanted to be, and that was just the story of our season, just not executing when we needed to the most and letting too many mistakes catch up to us, and they finally caught up to us versus Michigan. So I thought Coach Saban was going to come and talk to us about that, but he decided to retire. And when you have a coach with with a legacy as big as his, you can only clap for him and give him his flowers, just because you know he didn't come to the decision easily. Like, it's a pretty tough decision for him. But since I've seen him since he's retired, and he's very happy. I don't think I've ever seen him happier. So he definitely earned it.
Less stress, right? And more golf, yeah.
A whole lot.
That's certainly good. Take us through that time, too, that you get the news on that Wednesday. But then by Friday afternoon, we know that Kalen DeBoer is going to be the new head coach of the Crimson Tide. He gets to Tuscaloosa that night. What was his message when you got to meet with Coach DeBoer the first time?
He was big on family and big on relationships, and that really made me feel very comfortable with him being our head coach, just because that was the difference between 2022 and 2023. We did a lot more team activities. I feel like there was a lot more togetherness with that team, and I was really focusing on that, like focus on a relationship, becoming more of a family, and hearing those be the first words out of Coach DeBoer's mouth. That made me feel really comfortable with who they brought in as a head coach.
Did you like the atmosphere at spring practice? I mean, everyone's talking about the music.
Oh yeah, it was a little different. We had music at IMG, so having that back, it was a little different. It was a little fun. We all just talk about, like, oh my gosh, what would Coach Saban think? because it's so different. But just us having music at practice is just a testament to who Coach DeBoer is. And my message to Coach DeBoer when he first got here was like, don't try to be Coach Saban, just be you, because you're here for a reason. Athletic director Greg Byrne chose you for a reason. So just be you and be the person that you've been to this point to get you where you are now.
What do you like about your new offensive line coach, Coach Cap?
Coach Cap, he's a hard-nosed coach. You know, he's going to coach you hard no matter who you are. He's going to work with us. So it's not like he's talking at us like, hey, this is what we're going to do. If you have something that's different, he's going to let you try it. And if it doesn't work, you're going to do what he wants you to do. But he's all about working with us. I feel like it's more of a partnership than a superior and an inferior.
We're having this interview at Bryant-Denny Stadium at the Advantage Center in their podcast studio. It's all part of the name, image, and likeness initiatives that Alabama is trying to promote. And for you, you've been pretty active with name, image, and likeness. Just what have you liked getting involved? And I know you've done a lot of interviews like this before. How much have you enjoyed kind of getting to grow your personal brand along with representing Alabama?
I really enjoy name, image, and likeness just because of I'm allowing people to get to know me as a person. Like, of course, like, they see this big, scary guy on the football field, but I feel like I'm a pretty nice guy. I think people say I'm a nice guy, and just getting people being able to get to know my personality, and that makes people more invested to who I am and more invested to my brand. So once I do get to the next level, that fan base and that community is more drawn to me than before. And I feel like with NIL, I'm even able to have a bigger name throughout the community, so I'm having a bigger effect on the people within the community. So just being able to give back, like, I'm a part of the Big Brother Big Sister program. So I have a little brother who's at one of the local Tuscaloosa elementary schools, so I go see him once a week, and I used to see him every week during the season, and we would just talk about the game. We always have a great time, and I still see him to this day. So just being able to have a positive effect on the community and people getting able to know me personally, I feel like that's the best part of NIL.
Have you liked doing interviews like this? I mean, and you've been on the Paul Feinbaum show before, too. He's kind of praised you and is like, hey, you've got another career in media down the road if you want it.
Definitely. I really do enjoy doing interviews like this, and doing interviews like this has really opened up my eyes to a career in media possibly in the future. And I definitely wouldn't be opposed to that, and I enjoy it. I really enjoy the game of football, and I don't know exactly what I want to do when I'm done playing, but I always want to be around the game of football, whether I coach, whether I'm part of media, operations, something. The game has done so much for me. I just want to give back to the game.
I'll agree with Paul. I think you got a bright future if you want to do it. Tyler, we've had a blast catching up here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Just thank you for your time. Best of luck this summer. Roll Tide.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Roll Tide.
The official throwback weekend of NASCAR returns to Darlington Raceway May 10th through the 12th. Experience a weekend of good times, unforgettable racing, and a date with the track known as the Lady in Black. Don't miss out your chance to witness epic racing and jaw-dropping NASCAR throwback paint schemes. It's a 3-day weekend of racing at the track that's too tough to tame. Purchase your tickets today at darlingtonraceway.com and experience a weekend you'll never forget. Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR and, of course, Tyler Reddick. We're all thrilled about his victory in NASCAR on Sunday, the Geico 500 in Talladega. He finally breaks through and wins a race at Talladega. He joins us to tell us all about the experience and getting to celebrate with Michael Jordan. Tyler Reddick, the driver of the number 45 Toyota from 2311 Racing. And Tyler, congratulations on the victory. How did everything come together for you and your team on Sunday?
Well, it was a chaotic day, but I really like the backdrop. That's cool. Um, yeah, I think for us, stage one and stage two, we didn't ultimately maximize the strategy, but we did get stage points, which was good. We had a shot to contend for, I think, the stage two win. Didn't work out, but yeah, stage three got rolling, and we just kept our tank full, and we were putting ourselves in a position to mix it up if we needed to. And unfortunately, when we all did pit, all the Toyotas, a good number of us crashed, but that very thing that took out a good number of cars cycled the remainder of Toyotas to the front. We were good to go on fuel, so the rest of the field that was almost back to us had to pit, and so we cycled to the front, and ultimately that put us in position to maintain that track position from the final restart to the checker flag. The last lap was chaos, right? I thought it had slipped away there down the back straightaway, but the Fords went after one another, and I just found the gap and kept the throttle pinned wide open.
How do you keep your cool in a moment like that when you're talking about all the chaos it is and maybe things on the back straightaway didn't go like you want, but to get in position to take home that checker flag and avoid that final crash, just how'd you keep your calm and kind of patience in those moments?
Well, I think for us, we've had some rocky and tough outings. And last year kind of got off to the same start for us, but a little bit worse. So, I think for me in the moment where going into three, it was about fourth or fifth, still the first car on the outside line, but I was kind of shifted. I had a feeling that at some point they were going to drift up in front of me, and I was going to probably end up having to push another car across the line. So I think the biggest thing for me is I was, as much as I wanted to still win the race, I was trying to be realistic and not getting a big crash and not start finish line. So I was kind of shifting my objectives very late. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna still try to play this a little bit safe now that we're not in control. I want to make sure that if someone does get together with somebody else, that we have a little bit of a path here to make it through a crash potentially. And if we finish second, so be it. Third, so be it. But as it turned out, it ended up going a different route, and everybody in front of me lost momentum when the 34 got sideways, and we were just able to power through the chaos.
Power through the chaos, you take the checkered flag, and then it's time to celebrate. How meaningful was it for you, first of all, just to get this win at Talladega, knowing what you've gone through before at this track?
Yeah, I've the next gen era for me on speedways has been pretty rough. Up until the beginning of this year, at the duel we had some success and won duel number one, which was really cool. The 500 didn't go great for us. Obviously, we got caught up in a wreck and didn't finish that one as well. Atlanta wrecked on lap 2. So for me, speedways have been pretty unforgiving, and it's just been circumstances. But yeah, I think for me, it's been a while since I've won at Talladega. I won there a couple of years ago in the Xfinity car in pretty dramatic fashion. So it just felt really good to win at Talladega again. It's a track that again, my last lap just all over the place, and then be able to have the circumstances play out like that and win, just your excitement just boils over. And yeah, on top of that, having Michael Jordan be there and taking him to victory lane for the first time just made the whole thing that much sweeter.
Yeah, and of course, we all got to see the video of him carrying your son Bo right to the car in victory lane. I mean, just incredible moments and such a great step forward for this team. It seems like just how much momentum can be gained from a win like this for 2311.
Yeah, momentum's on our side right now for sure. Again, I was had shifted my goals for the remainder of the lap because I knew we were on a good stretch of putting together. We put together 4 straight top 10 finishes. And we were chipping away at the gap to the leaders in the regular season standings. So I wanted to make sure that we didn't finish 27th at the end of that race. So I was just trying to make sure we kept that going. A win is huge momentum, obviously, for us in our group. But being able to knock off that 5th top 10 in a row was also going to be a very good thing too. So I think for us, the big picture of the regular season is really starting to become more recognizable and obtainable for us. So we want to win these races for sure. But on the days that we let slip away, instead of finishing 15th or 20th, we've got to stay in the top 10 and stay in the top 5 when our car is capable. So we're just going to keep this rolling. I think a couple weeks ago we were about 100 points out of the points lead, and I think we're about 40 out right now. So we're moving in the right direction, and we got a lot of really good tracks for me and for my team coming up, and hopefully here in another month we're leading the whole thing.
Your team is really unique in the fact that it's co-owned by Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin. Denny, I'm sure you got to know throughout the years, climbing your way up from the Craftsman Series, Xfinity, onto the Cup Series. But how about for you, Michael Jordan? I'm sure you grew up, like we all did, kind of in awe of him and what he was able to do as a basketball player. We've heard about his love of NASCAR, but what was it like for you getting to know him for the first time and having him support now on race day?
Yeah, certainly. That's one of those guys, legendary guy, right? Accomplished so much. And the first time meeting him is just like pinch yourself moment, right? Like, holy cow, I'm having a conversation with Michael Jordan about race cars and life and our potential future together. So yeah, it's crazy how life can kind of change and take paths you're not really anticipating at the time. But yeah, for me, that just ended up coming together at the right time. I was looking for long-term security, and little did I know, but Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan were, had me as the guy they wanted to pursue the most. So everything just worked out really well to where, I was able to start a year early at 2311. And now rolling into year 2, we're winning races, we're doing a lot of good things, and we're learning a lot along the way. So yeah, just it's incredible to have owners like that. Michael speaks for itself, the things he's accomplished, what he brings to the table. And then, having an owner like Denny, who I compete with week in and week out and have competed with for, the entirety of my Cup career and a few Xfinity starts, been able to learn a lot from him, even before we were working together like we are now. So just having his veteran insight, his knowledge, the amount of races he's won, he's lost, he knows a lot, and brings a lot of positive information to the table that I can learn from. So I'm in a great place to benefit a lot from my owners and also the other individuals that are part of this organization that have done a lot as well along the way.
You mentioned you like my background. I'll get out of the way for a second. We can kind of see the paint scheme. The number 45 for you, it kind of almost looks like Michael Jordan's look with the Birmingham Barons here in Alabama when he played minor league baseball back in 1994. The Jumpman logo on the hood as well. Just what can you tell us about the look that you had for the car this week in the paint scheme?
Yeah, the car is really sharp. That's one thing Jordan Brand really does a good job of. And, we haven't really picked a trend or a style with the cars. They've done a really good job of mixing it up. I think back to our Las Vegas playoff car, we really got out of the box, nodding to the 8 playoff shoe. And so it's been really fun to see how creative they get with each of their schemes. And, like I said, it's a huge honor to be able to take Michael to victory lane, but to do it in a Jordan Brand car on top of that, you add it all together, it's just a surreal moment.
Well, really great to see. Tyler Reddick, thank you so much for your time with us this week on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Congratulations on your win at Talladega. We look forward to catching up with you again in the future, but thank you for your time again.
All righty. Thanks so much.
When throwback weekend comes to town, the lady in black will play extra hard to get. Or as some might say, too tough to tame. NASCAR Throwback Weekend at Darlington Raceway. Get your tickets now at darlingtonraceway.com.
On Monday night, we had a football-only edition of Hey Coach presented by Alpha Insurance for what is our last Hey Coach of the season in Tuscaloosa. Don't forget, coming up this Monday, we will have Hey Coach from Foley, Alabama at Baumhower's Victory Grill as Chris Stewart will host with some very special guests. We look forward to that show coming up in Foley on Monday. But in Tuscaloosa this past Monday, great interviews to begin the show with Crimson Tide student athletes Jeremy Bernard, Wilkin Formby, and Jam Miller. All those are available on demand along with the whole show on our CTSN YouTube channel. But also, the headline attraction was Kalen DeBoer. The first time he had made a trip to Baumhower's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa, he liked, first of all the televisions that were around Baumhower's to watch all the different sports, but what he really loved was the fan atmosphere created by all the Alabama fans in attendance. Here's a look back to our first visit with Kalen DeBoer on Hey Coach.
Glad to welcome you back to Baumhower's Victory Grill in Tuscaloosa. This is Roger Hoover, now joined by the new head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer. Roll Tide, Coach.
Roll Tide.
First appearance here at Baumhower's for Hey Coach. We look forward to hosting you all throughout the football season coming up to get your thoughts on the Crimson Tide. But we're just, again, thrilled that you're here. How was spring football for you and the Crimson Tide?
Yeah, it was awesome. Just the guys all spring long, just bringing a great mindset, attitude. And when you do that and you have the talent we have, you can accomplish a lot. And so I give the guys a lot of credit. They never let one day slip by where there wasn't something that we could get better at, learn from. That was on the field, off the field, meetings. We made a lot of progress from day 1 to day 15.
The offense got the win, so does that mean you had steak or did you have the Franks and beans like the defense a week ago?
Well, here's the thing. I can go make this long, but there is an offensive background to where I come from, right? And so I hear it from the defensive guys every once in a while, okay? And there'll be times when they come to me, like the defensive backs, for example, they'll sit there and say, man, we handled your offense, we handled your wide receivers, coach. I go, what do you mean my wide receivers? I go, I'm on your side. When you won, I'm on your side. Well, the offense won, and they keep telling me I'm an offensive guy, so I ate steak.
There you go, as is your right.
No, actually I did. I kind of hung back and kind of played it neutral for the most part. Had a little bit of one, but that's about it.
There we go. So again, a great Golden Flake A-Day game. How special was it to see 72,000 fans, over 72,000 there to see you, and also the Walk of Champions is about as packed as it's been in years. How meaningful was that?
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And the Walk of Champions, just with the way this day set up, I didn't make the walk with them. I got to the stadium a little different timing than I think than a normal game would be. So it was really neat to see it happen from my perspective, a fan's perspective probably more so. And so, seeing these guys and how much they enjoyed that moment, really cool. And I can't wait to be a part of it again next fall.
Looking back to the time in January when you were hired to be Alabama's head coach, starting from your initial interest that Alabama had in you, talking with Greg Byrne to when you ultimately accepted the job, who were some people that you really leaned on during that time? Was it mostly your family or some other mentors? Who'd you go to?
Once I was here?
Or weighing the decision.
Well, everything happened really fast. And there's a couple people just professionally that would understand, I think, and be able to know who I am and really what was important to me. Actually some people that this wasn't the intention, but people who actually knew who Greg was as well. And, really understood what type of person he was and who I'd be working for. And that was important to me. So it wasn't a lot just because things were moving quickly. But my family, of course, is going to be super important to me. My wife, Nicole, and 2 daughters. One's a senior in high school and the other's a 6th grader. And so, knowing that they supported and, I couldn't go to work every day without their full support and allowing me to just give everything I got to these guys. So, they're certainly, the ones I really sat down with and we talked it through.
So we just got to see the Crimson Tide in spring football. We saw the offense, of course, played well. Sticking with the offense for a moment, how'd you like how the returning players started to adapt to your system as spring went along?
Yeah, they were from day one. It seemed like they were very eager just to really, dive into this and figure out the nuances. Understand, of course, the foundation of what we were asking them to do. But they've never flinched. Just embraced everything we've thrown at them. I think it showed. It showed their progress that they're making. We still have a long ways to go. There's a lot of things we've just scratched the surface on, and execution is going to be at a premium when you face teams that are super talented. You got to be able to play fast, and so this summer is going to be really important. Fall camp's going to be important. That's another 2 more times where they get get to have the install. And, I think it seems like they've been just so receptive, and so I'm expecting that improvement to continue to happen.
And then on the defensive side of the ball, where did you see some steps forward there?
I think, overall, I thought we did a better job as the spring went along with the run. We were very strong, getting takeaways. It didn't show in the scrimmage, and there's things that happen, and you force and put pressure on people. They make mistakes, and start, especially the quarterback or things like that. And so that happened throughout the spring where we were getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And so I think there's things that we can do and people we have to where that pressure can exist, up front, especially just even with a 4-man rush.
And then for you, I know you've had next to no downtime. We talked about how quick that week in January was to make the decision to come to Alabama. When you do get a little bit coming in to the summer months, how do you like to unwind? What are some things you like to do away from football?
It's all my family and football. I mean, really and honestly, it doesn't show, but if I can get out to maybe play a round of golf or something, I'll probably get about 5, maybe 6 rounds in a year. So that's not much. And a lot of times those 3 rounds are happening maybe within a week or something. So that leaves a lot of other weeks where there's not much being played. So my family, just, friends, catching up with them. But a lot of it's just time spent with my family, with my daughters being the age they are. They're busy with their activities.
Coach, before we let you go, just what's most important for you the next few weeks? What are you going to be focused on getting this football team ready for the summer and then the fall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just had our really final team meeting before the guys finish off their final week of class, and then next week is finals. And so they're doing, full-out workouts, and that was what having an earlier spring game did allow us to do, is get 2 really good weeks in here before and get them really rolling. You know how habits are created again, and guys were lifting all through spring, but I really like the grind that the guys and the mentality they have, and that's going to carry out through the month of May. They get a little time away from the the facility and such, and it's really their biggest time that they'll have in the whole calendar year. But we're doing one-on-one meetings. Probably had 15, 16, 17 guys here today, and tomorrow be the same. So all week long, just kind of wrapping those up here Monday through Friday. So the one-on-ones I think are important just for developing the talking about in communication with understanding the roles that they're in. I want the guys. I'm still getting to know some of them. Just in depth. We've talked a lot of ball, but just their personal lives and things like that. What's important to them, what their goals are. Just kind of re-familiarizing, even with maybe conversations that we had back in February when things were really going crazy. So it's been awesome. It's been awesome sitting down with these guys. And today, as much as it was a busy day, it was a really enjoyable day.
It's only April, but do you love the energy you're seeing from this fan base? They're ready to go for September right now.
I love it. It's been anything. It's been nothing but that since the day I got here. So it's been awesome. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll get used to it. Coach DeBoer, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to visiting with you much more coming up on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Thank you. Roll Tide.
My pleasure. Roll Tide.
It's the head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, joining us here tonight for Hey Coach.
Don't miss out on the track that's too tough to tame. NASCAR is returning to Darlington Raceway from May 10th through the 12th, and you won't want to miss the action. Purchase your tickets today at darlingtonraceway.com. Joining us a lot coming up all throughout the football season for new editions of Hey Coach, but we really enjoyed Monday night's visit from not only him, but also Will Conformi, Jeremy Bernard, as well as Jam Miller. It's time to take a look at what's coming up the rest of the weekend here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Our weekend update always brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. Find out how you can incorporate Wickles Pickles into your next Crimson Tide tailgate online at wickelspickles.com. Let's see what's coming up across the network. Well, I've got to hit the road. Coming up, it's Alabama baseball taking on the Ole Miss Rebels. It's only 3 hours, so I'll make it in plenty of time for that 6:30 first pitch at Swayze Field in Oxford. We look forward to that. Plus, this is the final week. We will have a new episode of Tide TV this week. That'll be available to our TV affiliates across the state as well as on demand on the Alabama Athletics YouTube channel. Coming up tomorrow, softball starting its series against Tennessee, and then 6:30 it'll be baseball against Ole Miss. Don't forget, we will have a booth cam for softball presented by Country Financial here on the Crimson Tide Sports Sports Network, and the baseball team playing at 6:30 on Friday, wrapping the series up at 2 p.m. on Saturday. Softball back-to-back night games followed by the Sunday afternoon game to wrap up the home schedule at Rhodes Stadium. And then again, on Monday, it will be Hey Coach in Foley, Alabama. If you're in Lower Alabama, or maybe just use this as an excuse to get down to the beach, have a fun time with all of us at Hey Coach coming up in Foley, coming up next Monday night. That's our upcoming schedule, presented by Wickles Pickles. And that's going to wrap up this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, the first one that we've really hosted here at Bryant-Denny Stadium at our Advantage Center, but I think you got to see it with the Tyler Booker interview that we had. We're going to have more student athletes joining us next week. This is a special place. We're having some really special conversations, thanks to, again, all the support that we get from Learfield Communications and our staff here at the Advantage Center. Special thank you as well to, of course, Kalen DeBoer for his time on Hey Coach the other night, as well as NASCAR's Tyler Reddick. Congratulations on his win at the Geico 500. For everybody with Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching. Shout out Ethan Carabin producing these interviews at the Advantage Center, as well as this show as well. But we'll see you again next week, next Thursday at 2 o'clock for another edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Until then, roll Tide, everyone.